history, so welcome back to my channel. As you can probably tell by the title, this video is going to be a review of the complete Red Rising series, which I just binge read this month, consisting of Red Rising, Golden Sun, and Morning Star. These books came out a long time ago. I know the last publication, of the third book, was in 2016, so this isn't anything new, but I do have some thoughts and feelings on the series, in particular its ending, and I wanted to do an own video on it, because of course I could talk about these books in my wrap-up, but I feel like I have too many thoughts on them to not let it get out of hand in terms of the length of the video. So this video is going to be completely spoiler free, don't worry, and let's just jump right into it. Okay, if you have not read Red Rising, let me just quickly tell you what the story is even about. Basically, this is set in a futuristic science fiction society where there's different categories or castes kind of thing of people that are ordered by color. So for example, the highest class of people is the golds. They are the leaders of the society. They have a lot of wealth, they have a lot of power, and they're basically the rulers of the society. There's other higher colors that are kind of the top tier of society. Then there's the mid colors that consist of things like blue, for example. Blue people are in charge of technology. Then we have yellows that are doctors and things like that. So basically they are classified by profession. It's a status that they can't get out of. They've basically been bred into this position for centuries because humanity has colonized space and lots of planets, and this is all happening in space basically. The lowest color of people are reds. Low reds are actually used as miners underneath the planets, within the planets, mining for helium-3, which is the substance that kind of keeps everything going. And these reds are led to believe that they're actually pioneers, so that humanity is actually only just getting to terraform these planets, and their job is to mine enough of helium-3 to make this possible. They're never actually told that the process of terraforming has been completed a long time ago, and they're basically kept as slaves. But anyway, this book follows a young boy named Darrow. He's married and he is a hell diver, which is the leading position in a mining group. And one day something happens that leads him to encounter the Sons of Ares, which is a rebellious group that aims to overthrow the Golden Rule and basically change society. So based on that premise, the book definitely sounds very standard, dystopian, YA, the kind of book that has been written many times before, and that's kind of the feeling I went into the story with. The first chapters in particular definitely cemented that view and just gave me the feeling of having read this story 30 times over already. However, by the end of the book, I was completely in love with it. Even though the premise might be stereotypical, the direction the story took was so unique and just had so many unexpected twists and turns to it that I couldn't help but fall in love with this book instantly. As a member of this rebellious group, Darrow is actually transformed into a gold, physically as well as mentally, as he's being trained in the ways of talking and all of their mannerisms and things like that. And his job is to infiltrate the institute where young golds are being trained to take up future leadership positions. He manages to get into the institute and things pick up from there. Apart from the premise, what he does within the institute sounds very reminiscent of other books as well. This definitely has some touches of Harry Potter and particularly the Hunger Games to it, but I feel like this book just goes to show that you don't necessarily need the most outrageous and unique premise to make a fantastic book. This has definitely been done before in its core structures, but it's never been done this way and this well, I would even venture to say. This book is definitely very character driven, and I think the first book even follows the course of 2 years even or something like that, so there's a lot of character development on Darrow's part. He changes drastically from the beginning of the book to the end, and that kind of momentum is definitely carried forward in the future books as well. I just loved how human Darrow is. I loved how he was moved by things. I loved how he was not afraid to cry when terrible things happened to him. That's something that often kind of annoys me in YA books, when terrible things happen to these people that are children by any sense of the word. And they just brush it off and are fine with it. Like, that's not what happens with him. He actually has to deal and like process things that happen to him, and it just makes him so relatable and seems so real. It's also fantastic to see what he brings to the table as a red among like a group of golds, because everybody that manages to make it into the Institute is like the top tier of the golden class of society, basically, and they all have amazing powers both physically and mentally. But because he's a red and he's had such unique experiences in his life, many of which were already traumatizing compared to those of like the pampered golds that have led a very privileged life and have never had to encounter any sort of you know, hurdles. It's so fun to see how he manages to use his personal unique capabilities and his unique experiences to succeed in this world, and it's just such a fun ride. I absolutely adore this book. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. I don't think anybody's surprised at that. So I went on Amazon and I ordered myself books 2 and 3 and instantly jumped into those as well. The second book is called Golden Sun, and it basically connects like directly to Red Rising. I'm pretty sure it's like literally the same moment continued, and then there's a time jump. In this book, Darrow continues to rise through the ranks of golds, and he makes some more connections and like stirs up basically civil war among the golds to overthrow the society from within, which was actually his goal from the beginning. This book also deals with some troubles within the group, the Sons of Ares, and it just is so political and so action-packed, and I absolutely adored this one as well. I can't really talk too much about the plot in this one, obviously, because it's the sequel, but I really loved it. I also gave this one 5 stars. It was just as good as the first one, maybe even better, because I already cared so much about Darrow that like from the first page I was super invested, and I just like wanted to keep reading, and my eyes were literally glued to the pages. With this book, again, the series manages to distance itself from predecessors that it maybe emulated a little bit, such as Hunger Games, because while the Hunger Games series had like multiple Hunger Games in like multiple books, this is its own thing entirely. While the first book is definitely very heavily centered around one certain event happening within the Institute, this is its own thing, completely different storyline. It's not like the same thing rehashed again just to get more pages of the plot. Like, it's its own thing. It makes sense. It's a natural, organic progression, and it was fascinating to read. This book, I think, definitely also shows some more of Darrow's weaknesses, because one of them is definitely that he's a little bit naive, particularly when it comes to his friends. He's a little bit too trusting, and sometimes that becomes a huge problem and it causes a lot of trouble. So it's sometimes a bit frustrating because you think like, oh my god, why do you keep doing this? Why do you keep trusting the wrong people when you're clearly in no position to do so? But overall, it just shows how human he is and how he really has the best intentions for the society and for this world. And he's just doing his best. He's just doing what he can with what he has. Also, there's so many emotional scenes in this book, especially towards the ending. I was literally bawling my eyes out at so many things because I cared so much about these characters and about their life stories. And I mean, if you read these books, you cannot actually help but care for them because they feel like your friends and your own family, and it's fantastic. Those are my favorite kinds of books, where I can like connect to the characters on such a level. And then the original trilogy concluded with Morning Star, the third book. This is the longest of the trilogy, and I don't think that was a good idea on the author's part. This book, again, seamlessly basically connects to the second book, and in between the books something terrible happens to Darrow that is sort of announced at the back of this as like something that completely changed him and broke him and like has sort of, you know, had such a huge impact on him. And if you read what it is, you do feel like, yes, this naturally would have a huge impact on him. And while he definitely seemed like he was affected by this at the beginning, it didn't really carry through the whole book. It didn't fundamentally change him as a person in any way. It didn't even change the naivete that I just mentioned earlier. It didn't really have the impact I feel like it should have. So that already kept me kind of feeling a little bit iffy about this book. Another thing that I really didn't like about this book is that it is literally exclusively fighting. There's so much fighting in this book. It is absolutely crazy. This entire series has a lot of time jumps in it. I haven't mentioned this, but it does. I think that the 3 books take place over the course of like 6 years or something. So there's lots of times where it's like, oh, and 2 years later this is happening now. And most of the time, especially in the first 2 books, that didn't really bother me at all because I didn't feel like I was lacking anything because of this jump. I didn't feel like I had missed anything vital. I didn't think that this time could have been used for something else because it just made sense to jump ahead if it wasn't anything that, you know, was super impactful or whatever. However, with this book, the time jumps literally just skipped everything in between the fighting scenes, and it was the worst. I don't want to read a 500-page book that talks to 95% about fighting. It is boring as fuck. I didn't care anymore about what was happening. There's also so much like backstabbing and betrayal in this book to the point where I was like not even surprised anymore. Like, there were moments where I was like, he has got to have like something up his sleeve. I already know because we've had a decent amount of time since the last time somebody backstabbed someone, so this is, it's time again, you know, it's gonna happen. There wasn't really time to dedicate to the character developments in this one. Some characters made decisions that were completely out of character for them, and others didn't really evolve even though they had been experiencing things. And then there were like just people getting together that I didn't really understand why, because again, because everything had been skipped in between fighting, there wasn't really substance to that in my eyes. And the main issue that I have with that is that Darrow and Mustang, his like sort of love interest, they had a strong emotional connection in the 2nd book, and it got destroyed through certain events and things happening. Not completely destroyed, but it definitely was damaged by them. And this book should have been the time for them to discuss those issues and get past them and deal with them and find like closure. But because everything between fighting was basically skipped, there wasn't a single moment for them to have a full conversation about their feelings, about anything at all. And like, for like 3/4 of the book, they basically don't have any conversations that aren't directly related to the plot, and then they just like make out a bunch, and then it's fine again. Their arc was going so well, and then it was completely abandoned, and it just made me so mad because this isn't how it works. There's so many things that they have never discussed. Like, they really needed time to emotionally reconnect, but they were never given the chance to in this book, and it was frustrating to no end. It made me so mad because I was really rooting for them. I was really like, I just wanted some more tension. I wanted something that was like there, that was to look forward to beyond more fighting, right? And it just was never delivered to me, and it made me really angry. Whew, can you tell? I'm getting agitated as I speak. Also, there were some plot decisions made that didn't seem quite logical or that didn't seem quite realistic. And like, particularly the ending felt a bit rushed because there had been so much setup and so much fighting already that it was like, that you could kind of feel that the author knew that he had to do more fighting just because he needed a resolution, but he also wasn't really feeling it anymore, so it was just like, let's get this over and then let's just finish the book, and that was it. And I just like was really disappointed with this one. I ended up giving this 3 stars, which I didn't want to do. Actually, when I finished it, I was thinking that I was gonna give it 4 just because 3 sounded so little compared to my glorious 5 stars for book 1 and 2. But then I realized I just can't. I just can't give it 4 because it's just not that good. And it made me really disappointed, really sad, and it kind of burnt me out on the series. Like, I was instantly going to continue with Iron Gold, the 5th book that came out, 4th book, sorry, that just came out a few months ago, and I wanted to continue reading, but I couldn't physically stand any more fighting anymore. So I needed to just like put down the series, and like, I'm taking a break right now from it because I just don't want to continue. I started the first few pages of Iron Gold and it's just more fighting and I literally can't do it. So I need a minute. I need a minute of something that's not like space fighting without any real like attention to detail and attention to characters. I can't say if that's gonna be the case for Iron Gold or not, but just saying right now, I need a freaking break. And I think that that is everything that I had to say about the Red Rising series so far. Overall, I really love the series. I wish it had ended better, and I wish Mustang and Darrow had gotten their like moment of closure and reconnecting emotionally. It's gonna haunt me forever. It feels so unfinished. Like I don't know why he would write this. It makes me mad. Also, side note, I don't know if you've noticed this, if you've read the books, but there's so many typos in them. It is crazy. But I feel like the second book and the first half of the third book had so many typos. Like extra words, missing words, extra letters, missing letters, names being misspelled. Like, how can you misspell a freaking name and not even notice it? I don't get it. It made me so angry. Like, this is not that hard. Get a good editor, let them look it over, but this is embarrassing. Because so many typos, it's embarrassing. So that is it for my video today. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know in the comments down below if you've read the Red Rising trilogy, or if you've already read Iron Gold, whatever. Let me know, and also let me know your thoughts on them. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to my channel for new videos every Tuesday and Friday, and sometimes bonus Sunday videos. And I will see you then. Have a lovely week. Bye!